Welcome to the HMO Property Podcast, where we connect, educate and inspire the UK's HMO property community. So stop what you're doing, sit back, relax and enjoy the story. What's up, HMO Nation, and welcome to an episode of the HMO Property Podcast with me, Rupert Wallace, in association with HMOHub.co.uk. In this episode, we're interviewing successful HMO property investor, Miles Pattison-Appleton. Miles is going to take us on his HMO property investment journey, including the ups, the downs, the highs, and the lows. Now, Miles has been investing in HMOs for some 4 years now. He's completed over 28 projects, currently housing 128 tenants. So let's jump straight in. Miles, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here. Miles, before we dive into the details of your HMO journey, give us a bit about yourself and your background before you started investing in HMOs.
Yes, so I was at university studying commercial real estate, so basically training to be a chartered surveyor. Obviously before that I was sort of at school and just being a student and enjoying life quite a lot. Same at university. Yeah. And then it's a tricky question to answer, Ray, because I started quite young, so there wasn't that much I was doing before HMOs. In terms of I was at school and then I was at university, and when I was at university I started getting into HMOs. So it's a hard one for me to sort of give much meat to it. So yeah.
Okay, man. And sorry, where did you go to uni, and what? Yeah. Where did you go to uni, and did you literally just make the leap then straight from uni into full-time property investment?
Exactly. So I was at Oxford Brookes, and I bought my first HMO my second year. So that's it. So yes, and when I came to leave university, I didn't need to have a job. So I didn't go and have a job straight out of uni.
So question number one then, were you financially free as you left university?
Not quite, I would say. I was living at home. So I no is the answer. I couldn't be living and renting and sort of doing, the normal day-to-day life things on the HMO that I had, and then the second one I bought. So no is the answer, but I had enough to basically make the decision to be able to live at home and build the portfolio.
Fantastic. What did you study at Oxford Brookes?
Real estate management.
Real estate. So you already had a bit of a flavour of the fact that you wanted to go in there. Did you realise before you did real estate that it would lead to a really practical real estate existence, or had you got dreams of going to one of the big companies, or what was your thinking?
So my first year at uni, I had I was sort of prepared to go and work for Savills, and I did a load of work experience with them for a month and things, and I was absolutely 100% just going to be a surveyor for a couple of years and then probably move into it in due course. But obviously things don't quite happen like that.
Wow. Well, it's quite a unique story actually, but I'm sure we're going to get some good info out of you, which is great. Great. So, how did you actually get into the world of HMO property investing then? What was that kind of light bulb moment?
Well, I was in a very fortunate position that my parents already owned an HMO portfolio. So I slightly knew maybe perhaps a little bit more about them than someone who didn't know anything about them. And I could see the appeal of owning HMOs. And so I, as soon as I really could, sort of was trying to get into it at some point because I had that slight background and I'd seen a few refurbs go on. And so that's how I got into it. And in essence, I I basically consumed everything I could when I was in my first sort of year at university on investing, on wealth creation, on anything that would allow me to grow a portfolio. And I pretty much locked myself in my room at uni for 3 days and watched like a DVD on property investing solidly, and then read every book I could, and just consumed as much as I could. And that's how I got into it.
Got it. Lovely. Okay. So I bet you are quite unique, because I would imagine a lot of people that go on that course weren't looking for such a practical exit to their degree.
Exactly. They were fully prepared just to go and work for one of these big companies and do the valuations for developers, for investors. So very unique, very unique. And it, to be honest, it wasn't practical. It wasn't relatable at all, really, to what we as investors, landlords, are doing. It's all about valuations. It's all about sort of law, and so it's not very. I suppose it is practical. It's not very. It's practical. It's not relevant because you can't do the valuations yourself, and you can't. If you need that sort of independent party, I suppose, to do all that side of things for you. So it was interesting, but it wasn't particularly practical.
I would imagine a lot of your friends who you're in touch with now are pretty envious. I mean, I don't know if any of them have gone on to a practical route like you, but I'm sure you guys generate some good quality conversations where they're potentially quite envious.
We do. I mean, most of them try and flog me things. But yes, no one I know has gone on to build a portfolio. People have obviously bought houses and things, but not a portfolio, an investment portfolio.
Got it. All right, next question. Not sure this is relevant to you, but was there anything holding you back getting into HMO property investing?
Yeah, definitely. I was 19, 20. I was at university. I had no income, living off student loans and small allowances and stuff. And so yes, there was. In terms of trying to get a mortgage was quite tricky at that time. So that was an issue, and actually because of that, I went down a slightly different strategy, which was a sort of rent-to-rent strategy to start with, trying to build up some income without having to worry about the mortgages. So that was difficult, to say the least.
Okay.
So that's, and just on that. So for example, I think I'd be good to put some examples. The very first property I tried to buy, and tried is the important bit here, we went to 3 different lenders and they wouldn't lend on me as a student with no income on anything, on an HMO. So it was an existing HMO, and we got turned down, had to pull out of it.
Okay. So that certainly some things that hold you back. I guess not the traditional things that most of the answers we get to that question most of the time. I don't think we've had anyone as young as 19, 20 on the show, actually. So quite a unique one. All right, Miles, tell us about your very first HMO property deal.
Yeah, so it was your fairly standard mid-terrace, 4-storey Victorian property. It was a 4-bedroom family house, and the cellar had already been converted. And so we simply, basically, the refurb was really simple on it. We pretty much brought it up to regs, painted it, put some carpet in, but we kept the kitchen as is, we kept the bathrooms as they were, and we didn't really do a lot to it at all. So that was the type of property. We bought it for 233,000. We spent 34,000 on the refurb, and about 10k on transaction fees, so your stamp and legals and all that sort of stuff. We actually tried to get planning on it to get a 7th room out of it, because at the moment, actually, I'll get to it. It had 2 sitting rooms, and it was a big property. Unfortunately, we didn't get the planning on it, which was a bit of a pain on the refinance side of it. So we bought it. Yeah, so we spent 277 or whatever that is on it.
Yep.
And we refinanced it for 275,000, so not a lot, because we got downvalued without the planning permission on the 7th room. However, a couple months ago, we actually just had it revalued at 330. So it's come good in the end. And this is a nice thing about property, is it's very forgiving. And we found a different lender. So we refinanced with Shawbrook originally. We found a different lender recently who would revalue it on the 6 rooms where it should really have been. So it's come good now. And it's about 30k left in it now. So it's a good, but it wasn't a great deal at the start because obviously we didn't get a particularly punchy refinance on it. And
still, what did it cash flow? So 230 in, 34 plus 10, about 270-ish. What is a 270? Whereabouts in the country was it as well?
Yeah, so it's in Hereford, West Midlands. Yeah.
Got it.
The net cash flow, net after investors have been paid, after the mortgage, after all the bills, is about £900 a month now.
Right. So, great. After all costs of finance,
everything.
Debt and equity.
Yeah, everything.
Sounds like a good first deal.
It's all right, but it wasn't to start with. It was about 500 before we refinanced it, because so it was. Shawbrook was very expensive actually. This is the first mortgage that because we to get round, we had to bridge it to start with, and then we had to we went to Shawbrook on the refinance, and they gave us, I think it was 5.6% was the interest rate on it. So expensive. Yeah, exactly. And so we then brought it down. Actually, we negotiated with them, brought it down, and then we've just refinanced out to another lender, and that's at 3.5%. So it makes a big difference.
Sounds like a good first deal.
Yeah, it was okay.
As in terms of how it fits in your portfolio, is it the best? Is it the worst? Is it about the middle?
It's very bog standard. It's a very average, it's I would say it's very typical of the type of deals I'm doing, sort of thing, which is buy it for around that amount of money. We've spent a lot more on stuff recently, but we have been buying houses for less, and leaving anywhere between 30 and 60k of them is roughly where I like to be. That's my sort of sweet spot.
Got it. Miles, sounds like a great deal. Next up, how has investing in HMOs changed your life?
Well, I haven't known much different in my life from investing.
Probably changed your student life quite a lot.
Well, I didn't actually, because by the time I'd actually bought them, completed on them, refinanced them, student life was sort of just sort of behind me and things, and and this is the thing, they're actually cash flowing. By the time they actually cash flow properly, I was sort of just leaving uni, which I think is important when people to HMOs. It takes much longer than anyone thinks to actually see that cash flow from something, and everyone talks about buying in a week or two or everything. So and then getting cash flow in really quickly, and it doesn't happen like that. And so it took, I bought it in my second year at uni, and it was properly cash flowing by just towards the end of the sort of end of my third year. So it didn't change it too much. But what has changed now is I basically have had a complete freedom to go and travel, to go and do all the things I would love to do at this age. So I spent 4 months last year in Southeast Asia traveling with my best mate. We just went off and had some fun out there. And then I went and did something called the Mongol Rally. And we spent a couple months driving from London to Mongolia in a car, which was brilliant. And I'm flying.
What car did you have, Miles?
We had a little 1.2 litre Polo. It was great. And it made it, luckily. Did about 15,000 miles out there through some, very interesting terrain and interesting places. So that was a good trip, which has allowed me to go and do and not have to worry about jobs. I'm flying to India in January for a bit more traveling, just to go off and go and do some traveling. So that's what HMOs has allowed me to go and do, which is what I wanted to do, which is go and just travel. So that's why.
The whole purpose of property, right? Is
to, exactly.
Not to do this to tie yourself into more time, but to gain a bit more freedom. 4 months, brilliant. Love that.
Yeah.
Miles, what's your favourite part of HMO property investing?
For me, my favourite part is finding deals, putting deals together, working out, what the best way of doing it is, bringing in other parties to sort of, share in the benefit of HMOs. And as soon as we complete on one, I'm pretty much on to the next one. I find the refurb quite dull. I find obviously the management of it is not interesting to me at all. And some investors and landlords are very hands-on with their HMOs, and they're in there all the time. I mean, most of my houses, I haven't been into one of them for 2 years now, sort of thing. I don't go into them very often. I just, that doesn't interest me at all. So my favorite part of investing is finding deals, putting them together, bringing the right parties in to fund them, and pretty much on to the next one as soon as it completes and refurb's underway.
Fab. So you must have a pretty good team in the background then.
We've got a lettings team and a letting agency in the background. So they obviously do all the lettings and management of it, hence why I haven't had to go into some of my houses for a while. But yes, obviously then we've got teams for the refurbs, and obviously we're managing the refurbs, but we've got builders to obviously take all that on.
Where does your old man fit into this team?
Yeah, he's boots on the ground, I would say. He does. I'm based in London at the moment, and so he is very much point of contact, boots on the ground, dealing with overseeing the builders, basically checking everything's okay, and then I'm putting the deals together, and a lot of the time finding the finance is sort of where I'm being quite lucky and fortunate in a way, being based in London.
Great. Super. Miles, we've talked about your past, but before we move on to the present and your future plans in HMO property, let's take a minute to thank our sponsors.
Are you looking for an effortless HMO mortgage experience? If that's a yes, there's only one place to go: www.thehmomortgagebroker.co.uk, the UK's #1 specialist HMO mortgage broker. They're so specialised that they don't do anything else. HMO mortgages, HMO remortgages, and HMO bridging. That's it. They have access to every HMO lender out there, and even some exclusive products not available to other brokers. With lightning fast service and A1 communication, they're easily the best HMO broker in town. So to experience HMO lending made easy, go to www.thehmomortgagebroker.co.uk today.
Miles, fast forwarding to the present day, tell us about your current portfolio in a bit more detail.
Yeah, so we have 122 rooms, and I also have a flat, and then rent rolls about 800,000 a year. So 28 properties. So it's a good.
Fab. Okay, and so you've got 3 locations, is that right?
That's right. So we've got Herefordshire, Worcestershire, and Gloucestershire. Hereford is where the bulk of the portfolio is in, and then we own everything in Hereford, and in Worcester and Gloucester we don't own anything there. They're management stuff. However, and we'll get onto it in a minute, but we're moving into those locations at the moment.
Okay. Fab. Okay, so 28 properties, 122 tenants. Are they majority professional HMOs, or are they students? Are they 6 beds? Are they a whole range?
They are all professional HMOs. They are all 6 beds bar 2, I think. One was a rent-to-rent turned lease option that we bought, and one is a 5 bed.
Okay. So, tell us, out of that whole portfolio, Miles, tell us your single best HMO investment to date, and it can be for a variety of reasons. It doesn't have to be money, but if it is, that's fine as well.
It is sort of student money, but it's to do not necessarily. It's not the sort of best deal in terms of there's no money left in it, and it's sort of got all recycled. There's about 50k of cash left in it. However, what it was a 1960s sort of house with a granny annex on the side, and the granny annex was a 1-bed flat that was being let out at the time, and I converted the 1-bed flat into a 2-bed flat. We split everything up, all the services out and everything, split it off. It has its own parking, its own access, and everything. And then we basically, what that enabled me to do was create an unencumbered flat that on the side of an HMO, that is sort of my just little pot. It's worth about 200k at the moment. So the plan is, once and if I need a bit of money, either for my own house deposit or for something else, or then I can just sell that. And that's always been the plan, is just to sell that and take that cash.
Fab. So you got a flat for free, basically.
Exactly.
The wholesale to retail strategy, for sure. Nice. Love it. Okay. Next up, Miles, tell us about one significant mistake that you've made in your HMO business that by sharing, you might help other people avoid.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we've made a lot more than one or two.
We just want your one most significant.
My most significant is borrowing too much cash from investors on a loan basis. Basically, going out, I mean, raising money was not particularly tricky for me, and going out and borrowing money left, right, and centre from loads of people at once with not enough deals to put all of it into at the same time. And I think there's another misconception of property that is, cash flows all over the place a lot of the time with HMO investors. And people say on paper it looks really good, but actually the reality of HMO investing is your cash flow, if you borrow money on a loan basis, is all over the place a lot of the time. You're just recycling this or raising that for until you refinance, and refinance takes longer, and it's just constantly moving money around. And I think that's something people don't quite talk about as much. So my biggest mistake was borrowing too much cash for investors at once and having a real cash flow problem in terms of having to fund the interest to investors, pay it back without having to, all sorts of things. But so my tip would be just don't borrow as much. Or what I would like, where I've now gone down is just doing straight JVs, 50-50 JVs, not borrowing it on a loan basis, and bringing investors in to purchase in conjunction with them.
Got it. Okay. Obviously, the JV scenario means you have no negative cash flow carry.
Exactly. So they're funding it all basically, and it's separate, obviously SPVs, so it's wrapped up in that, and it makes it very clean, much easier than moving money around from this and that and everything. So
we've all been there. It's a horrible place.
Yes, it is.
You need a good accountant. All right, Miles, tell us about your HMO portfolio plans for the next 12 months. What are you planning?
Yeah, so to carry on building the existing portfolio, we're moving into a different area now. So where we were in Hereford, we've definitely hit our sort of getting towards it's getting harder to fill rooms. And we're having to be a bit more creative and innovative with how we're filling those rooms. So we're now so my plans going forward is basically moving into a new area, and it's an Article 4 area, which is being a very interesting research sort of for me, because I've never done it in Article 4 area, and I'm having to do all the research on the planning side of it and working out, which areas are the density areas and hit all the planning criteria and everything. And that's been basically like starting from scratch again, almost in a new area, having to again walk roads and work out where to do it. So we've just got to so the plan is to move into this area and go and buy there's just 5 HMOs with JV partners there, and that's on the HMO side of things. We're also moving more into the development side of things a bit too, and focusing on building new build houses, as well as converting some commercial buildings that we're doing at the moment or looking at.
Okay, so have you got a target? So you got a target of 5 in this new area and 1 development site. Is that on your radar?
No, the target for the development site is 50 units in planning.
50 units in planning.
Yeah, 50 units in planning. So
good target.
Yeah.
Well,
so
we have to get you back in 12 months' time and see how you
get
on.
I mean, we're currently securing a load of development sites at the moment, and these are quite big development sites. So we should have that target hit. If we're just tying up legals at the moment on a lot of them, so option agreements over land and things. If they all come off, then we will have no problem hitting that target.
Well, we'll definitely get you back on the podcast and see how you got on. Miles, apart from building the portfolio, is there anything else you're up to in property that you'd like to share with HMO Nation? Yeah,
I mean, I have, on the side of the development stuff, on the side of the HMO investing side of things, I've recently launched our new letting agency, which manages all our own properties. The letting agency is called Relocation PA, and basically we are managing our own, but also other landlords' properties in Hereford, Worcester and Gloucester. And it's been fairly unique, I would say, in the way that we've positioned it. we're going down a slightly different route than most typical letting agents. We've brought in some quite niche, innovative sort of elements to the agency, such as we are doing a 30-day rent back guarantee. So if the tenants don't particularly like the house or the housemates, the way we're managing it, we will actually give them their rent back to move on and not have a problem with it, as long as it's within the first 30 days. We're doing a flexible contract, so we're not tying them into 6 or 12-month contracts at all. So if they also wish to leave, then we won't kick up a fuss. They are still protected as tenants, so we can't get rid of them quickly. But they, if they wish just to give notice, they just give 30 days notice, and then they can leave. Again, it just basically allows them, if they're not total flexibility, really, if they're not quite happy or the circumstances change or whatever it is, they can move on.
And how has that impacted your occupancy?
Yeah, so we're 100% full at the moment, and it's a tricky time of year. Obviously, that's in itself is proof of the pudding. We have a waiting list of tenants actively wanting our rooms, and actually not just room, they're just wanting to be renting through us, and they don't really mind what property it is. They just, we get lots of people just saying, can we rent through you? So that's really been good. We don't take deposits as well, which I know is not anything particularly special, but it's just another factor that has helped us build that waiting list of tenants. We've gone about really building a community with our tenants, because obviously we've got a fair amount of tenants now, so it's good that they can meet each other. So last week we had a social, a Christmas sort of party with all our tenants came, and they get to meet each other, and that obviously, instead of just knowing your 5 or 6 other people in your house, they get to meet everyone else as well. So that's been good. So yeah, we've set up this new letting agency that has really impacted our, in a positive way, our portfolio, and also our landlords as well. So we're actively trying to find and take on more management of other landlords in Hereford, Worcester and Gloucester. So that's what I'm also building on the side at the moment, is growing that.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it's one thing that I had on my radar to bring up with you, because we mentioned before in the preamble, I love your guys' website, and anyone that's listening should check it out. It's relocation-pa.co.uk. It's a brilliant spin on a co-living HMO agency. It doesn't feel like your typical lettings agent. It quite clearly has some incredible added value compared to just renting a room off someone. So I fully commend you for that website. I think it's brilliant. It must have taken you a while to plan it, even.
It did,
and then execute it.
Yeah, it took about a year to get it from initial conversations with web developers to actually getting it live, and it's still not finished. But at least we're in a position that it's good enough at the moment to go live.
It's very good.
Thank you,
Miles. What advice would you give to any current HMO investors?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it slightly earlier in terms of not borrowing too much cash from investors on a loan basis. And my advice would be to focus more on the JV side of things. So buying with a JV partner, 50-50, they put all the money in, and you find the deal, do the work, get it let, and then you split that cash flow.
And what about any advice you'd give people who are looking to get into HMO property for the very first time?
Yeah, so I'm sure it's been said a lot, but what was game changing for me was getting some mentorship and bringing on a mentor who basically changed the way I was doing everything. We weren't looking at commercial funding for the refinance, and we brought that in, just the way we were dealing with bridging them. And so I went to a chap called Alex Tepsaski, and he has been phenomenal for the last couple of years I've been with him. So anyone looking to get into property, and HMOs especially, I would highly recommend going to find somebody like that who can basically sort of lead you the right way.
Brilliant. Miles, before we sign off, we'd like you to recommend one great HMO resource or book. Then let HMO Nation know how they can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Okay, great. This is one of the ones there's so many good things that I could think of for this. But for me, and it's not really to do with property, but it's to do with more inspiration, is my favorite book by far is Elon Musk's book for inspiration. And I've read it 4 or 5 times, just constantly, whenever it's tough and you're finding things really tricky. Just reading that is really good for what I found anyway. firm. So that, yeah.
And if HMO Nation want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so you can email me on Miles, which is with an I, at relocation-pa.co.uk, or find us on Instagram, which is relocation_PA.
Great. We'll make sure on the show notes page for this podcast, we link up to all your social profiles so people can get in touch with you. Miles, thanks for sharing your journey. We salute you. Let's get an HMO high five.
Thanks, Rupert. It's very kind.
We'll see you soon.
Good. Thank you very much. It's been great having you.
Thanks for joining us. If you've enjoyed this and want more informational, educational and inspirational HMO property content, then please hit the subscribe button and give us a like. See you next time.